Good morning and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 273. And I'm continuing the story of the cat. Well, our main character, this young man who sets off in life with 6 shillings, decides to spend it all buying a cat. The next morning, he leaves with his cat tucked inside of his cloak and walks all through the day, feeling very content to have this beautiful animal with him, purring as it does every time he strokes it. And as it begins to get into the evening, he knows that he needs to find a place to stay, and he knocks upon the door of a home in a village that he's passing by that looks like it's perhaps for people that are passing through. And a woman comes to the door and invites him in, and he says, "Look, I need a place to stay, but I don't have any money left. All I have is this cat." She says, "Oh, please come in." She likes the look of this young man. She enjoys helping people out. So she invites him in, and in he comes. And there are, again, people gathered around a table eating, and so he sits down to join them. And they eat together and talk, and he shares his story. And an old man that's sitting at the table says, "Oh, my young friend, I hear that you're in kind of a dilemma as to what will happen next in your life. I would suggest that you ask audience of the king who rules over this land and see if there's something you could do for him. He is very generous and is always thinking about the best interests of its people." So the next day, when they get up in the morning, he thinks this is very good advice, and he writes a letter, sends it off to the palace, and the king receives it, and he sends back a message to please come, and that he will give him audience and see if he can help him out. And so the young man immediately sets off for the palace, and he announces himself, and the guards, go to the king and let him know that this young man is there to see him. And the king invites him in, has him come in to meet with him. And so the young man goes, and he's brought into the dining hall where the king is sitting there with many of his courtiers and his wife, the queen, and his daughter, and they're all sitting having dinner. And everybody is taken by this young man who has a quality of purity about him that is very, very nice. And the king asks him to please tell him what is going on. The young man is taking in everything that he sees, and he sees all these little animals running around on the floor. In fact, they're even on the table where everyone is eating. And in front of the king, there where the king has a plate full of food, one of these animals is just eating the food that's meant for the king to eat. Now, the young man can't even get words out of his mouth to comment on what he's seen before his cat, which is within his cloak, leaps out and begins to run about, slashing out and killing these little animals, which are, in fact, rats, one after another. And in short order, not only are many of these rats dead, but all the rest are fleeing for their lives. And the king, who's sitting at the table, turns to the young man and says, "What animal is this?" The young man says, "This is a cat." The king says, I've been plagued by these rats for so long. See for yourself. They even eat the food off my own plate. What you have just come in and delivered us from is amazing. It is a miracle. And for the gift that you bring, I would like to reward you. You may either become my prime minister, or you may marry my daughter and inherit the kingdom after I am dead. Which would you like? The king's daughter is sitting there at table with him, and she looks up at the young man with loving eyes, open to him as possibly her husband. The young man's eyes meet her and express the same. The young man returns to the king. This response, of course. Kingdom in your daughter, sire. And so it was. That's the story of the cat.